Okay, welcome. Torah portion, Shemini, on the 8th day. We continue in the 4th reading. This is the aftermath, if you will, of the passing of Nadav and Avihu, two sons of Aaron, as they went into the holies with an Eish Azara, if you remember, with a foreign fire. Different explanation what that meant. And they died there, right? Where they were shikr on divine mystical wisdom that intoxicated them, the teachings. Like, when we learn, we get so intoxicated in that, right? That we can barely control our, great passion in our learning. So, yeah, but we stay alive. We stay alive. Right. All right. So we continue now. So it's Aaron's sons, two sons. V'yidaber Moshe el Aaron. Now Moshe speaks to Aaron ve'Elazar ve'Isamar banav hanisarim, to his son, to Elazar, to Isamar, and his sons, hanisarim, the leftovers. This is not like leftovers from dinner. This is leftover from who's still alive, right?
50%.
Yeah. So, of course, Rashi is going to pick up on this because don't we know this already? Like, isn't that not necessary to be stated? We know from yesterday that it already said that these were the two that still were alive. So obviously they're the leftover sons, right? Take, you shall take the mincha, the meal offering, hanaiseres, that's left over, right? What does that mean? That's left over, Mishe Hashem, from the fire offering of God, and you shall eat it. And you shall eat this meal offering next to the altar, because it is Holy of Holies. Right? It doesn't mean in the Holy of Holies, right? Holy of Holies is the place, but it's also a thing, right? In others, it has the boundary or the limitations, right? The holier something is, more limited it is. So it means it can only be eaten where things of holies are eaten. Okay, so I think we'll see in Rashi some. Okay, let's see in Rashi now. Hanaisarim, the remaining, right? Minamisa, from death. They remain from death. Melamed, this teaches us, misa. The death penalty sentence was also on them, right? That's what Rashi is bringing out from here. Others, they're left over from death, meaning they should have died, but they didn't, right? Alav and Egel. Why? For the sin of the golden calf, right? So that's what the fact that they're spared from death. Why? Because of the golden calf. Hashin Emar. This is the idea that's referred to when it says Uva Arain. It's Anev Hashem Oid LaHashmidai. That against Aaron, excuse me, Hashem became very angry, right, to destroy him. That's later on. We'll see in Dvarim. It says that, right, to destroy him. What does it mean to destroy? How do you destroy a person? You annihilate or the death of their children. That's how you destroy them, right? As it says in the verse, I destroyed his fruit from above, meaning be fruitful and multiply your children, right? Taking away children, heaven forfend. Oh, but so then why, if that was the decree that it was on to destroy him, who's him? His children, right? But obviously only half were destroyed. How come? So it continues with Moshe's prayer nullified half of the decree against Aaron and his sons. Shenemar, as the verse says, also there in Devarim, that I prayed for Aaron also at that time, right? Because the decree was against all of his children.
So that's another reason they got killed. The sin of the golden calf.
Yeah.
The intoxications and the sin of the golden calf.
Actually, if anything, that's a question more than a statement should be, really, when you think about it, right? I mean, they didn't get, that's not what we said previously. It's a contradiction to previous then. Previously, there was either they were intoxicated, second explanation, or what they do? Halacha. They said that they were Moira halacha without asking Moshe, right? They said halacha without asking Moshe about the fire on the pan, right? So if anything, that seems to contradict. So and that's the reason why we said earlier. Now all of a sudden we're saying about the Chet Egel, about the sin of the golden calf, and they're included in that. If they're included in it, so then what's it got to do with those two reasons? Right? So if anything, that's a question, right?
Yeah.
So we'll have to see if the Rebbe addresses that. Okay. Take the meal offering. Now, why is he giving the commandment over here? And we already know that they have to do this, right? Because they're oinanim. Oinanim means that they are exempt from doing mitzvahs because a child is passed away and a brother is passed away. So both Aaron and his two sons that are left are in mourners.
Yeah.
Aninos is the day of the passing,
You
right?
don't have to pray that day.
So no, you not just don't have to pray. All mitzvahs, except for except for prohibitions, right, you're exempt from because you're in the middle of another mitzvah. If you're involved in one mitzvah, you're exempt from another mitzvah, right?
Yeah.
So right now, you're exempt from mitzvahs because you're involved in study of Torah, unless it was a mitzvah that came and no one else could accomplish it but you, right? Like if it was the time to say Shema, and so you'd have to say the Shema instead of learning, because you can only accomplish that mitzvah or putting on your tefillin. But if it's something that is of a public, thing, and someone else could do it, so you're because you're involved in one mitzvah, you're exempt from another in positive commandments, right? So here you're involved in one mitzvah of the day of passing of someone who you have to take care and mourn for. So therefore they're exempt, right? But remember, we learned yesterday already, right? What did we say?
That they couldn't let their hair go wild and they couldn't tear their garments.
Exactly. Why? Because they have to do the service, even though, and there from there we induced that's something that a mourner has to do. Let their hair grow, right? And rend their garments. So that's why now we say no, take. Like don't think because or the other things he did mention, but maybe this particular service. Right, even though you're einanim, kachim asurim la'einin, because the holy is forbidden to be eaten by an oinin. So, in other words, maybe they're gonna do the service, but maybe they shouldn't eat. Right? Do the service, because that we already know, but maybe I shouldn't eat. So Moshe says, no, eat. Besa mincha. Zu minchas Shemini. This is a meal offering on the 8th day of the inauguration. In other words, is special for the day, right? O minchas nachshen. It's a meal offering of nachshen, because nachshen, as we will learn later in Parshas Nosai, he is the head of the tribe of Yehuda, and he's bringing sacrifices on the first day of Rosh Chodesh. The Sachar brings on the second day, and so on and so forth. For the 12 tribes, the 12 leaders bring for 12 days in a row offerings for the inauguration of the Mizbeach, right? So this meal offering that we're talking about that is specific for the day is that of Nachshon. Okay? Bachu matzah, and you should eat it unleavened. Matamud laimar. Why is this being stated? All meal offerings are unleavened. Because this is a meal offering of the public, minchas shah, and also a meal offering of the hour, meaning it's not something for generations, it's something that is for for that particular time, right? And there's nothing like this for future generations. Therefore, the Torah had to explicitly state that even though that this is only for the day, this is the or for this inauguration, nonetheless, it also has to be unleavened, right? We already learned in Parshas Tzav last week the 4 different types of meal offerings, right? If you recall, right? The scalded one, the one you take with the 3 fingerfuls, that's a regular one, and the one that's put into a deep pan that's fried, and so on and so forth. And they are all for all generations, and those are unleavened, right? They're Pesach Day. But this maybe it wouldn't be because it's only for the inauguration. Therefore, Torah had to explicitly say this din shar min ochis, the law of other meal offerings. Okay. Verse 13, and you shall eat it. B'mokum kodesh, in a holy place. Ki chakcha, because this is your chak. So he translates here as a portion, right? Chak banecha, and this is a portion of your sons. He, mi'ishe Hashem, a fire offering of Hashem. Ki chein suvesi, for so I have been commanded. This is Moshe speaking to Aaron and Elazar and Samar. Okay, Rashi in 13. Chak banecha, the portion of your sons, ein labanes chayk v'kachim. Daughters do not have a portion in this than that which is of this holiness, right?
So is that why women aren't obligated to pray 3 times a day, or do?
Interesting point. I don't know if that's why. It might be a parallel. I mean, there's a parallel, but I don't know if that's the reason why. Okay. Next Rashi, so I have been commanded, but Nina is yachluha, that even you're in a state of the death mourning, right? You still have to eat it. Right? Again, out of the norm. The norm would be, right, if you're in the state of death mourning, right, the day of death, and then you would be exempt.
It's the day of the person himself.
No, the day of the person who passed away, the ones who are left that have to mourn for that person, they have an obligation on the day of death of mourning. It's a day of, it's got 2 points to it. It's got that you have to take care of the dead, to bury them, and mourn for them on that day of passing. Right, that's the biblical law. Rabbinic law is we have 7 days, right? That's a rabbinic institution, not a biblical, right? So we're speaking here in Torah law, right? The Torah speaks. So it's the day of passing. So you've got to now engage in taking care of the burial, and after the burial starts the mourning, right? And biblical law that the mourning is for that day. Okay, is that clear?
Yep.
14. And the breast of the meat that is tnufa for waving, that needs to be waved, right? There's sheikat truma, and the thigh, sheik is a thigh of truma that is raised up. Teichlu, eat it. Not right now. We're talking about the meat. Before it was the mincha offering, right, which is made from grain. And you should eat it. B'malkum tahar, in a pure place. Ata, you, uvanecha, and your sons, uvaneisecha. Oh, and your daughters. This includes your daughters. Before it was without daughters, right? When it came to the mincha offering. Itach that are with you, ki chagcha b'chag vanecha, because this is a portion, your portion and your son's portion. Nitnu mizivchei shalmei b'nei Israel, that was been given as the offering of the shalmei. Shalmei is peace offering, right? From the word shalom.
Is that the red heifer?
No,
No, okay.
no, not at all. No, red heifer is for, you don't eat a red heifer. You burn it up completely, and it's used for for someone who's come in contact with a human corpse, right? Yeah. Okay. So so this is different. This is not the same level of holiness. So the daughters have, right? And it says to eat in a place that tahar, pure. Didn't say kadosh, right? I just want you to pick up when we learn a verse, how to pick up the nuances, right? So then when we go to Rashi, we already understand where Rashi is going to go, right? It says before we said b'makom kadosh, in a holy place. Now it says makom tohar, in a pure place. Distinction. And here it says daughters, right? And it is a shalmei zivch, right? It is a peace offering. So some of the differences. Let's see Rashi. Okay. There's chazei atnufa, and the breast of waving. Zeh shalmei tzibor. This is a peace offering of the public. The only other peace offering that's brought by the public is the 2 sheep offered on Shavuos, which has a holier status and can only be eaten by male kahanim on the grounds of the base of Mikdash. But what we are talking about over here is a lesser holiness, and therefore that's why it can be eaten by daughters of the kahanim. Let's see further. Okay. Teichlu b'makom Torah, eat it in a pure place. Why is it, so Rashi says what? And the other ones were eaten in an impure place, and here it has to say pure place, as opposed to Ella Rishonim. But regarding the early ones we mentioned, Shem Kodesh Kadoshim, they are a holy of the holiest degree. Who's going to go? Kodesh. They're required that their eating should be done in a holy place, meaning in the courtyard of the Mishkan or in the Beis Hamikdash. Right? But these peace offerings of the public ain't tzrichim. They do not need to be in imtecha kloim inside the courtyard of the Mishkan. Right? Where do they get eaten in? But they do need to be in Teich Machan Israel, in the camp of the Israelites. Shehu Torah, because in the camp of the Israelites, it is pure, meaning that those who have tsaras, the skin disease, they cannot enter there, right? So that means it's pure, because they're impure, they can't enter there. Mikan, from here, Kodshim Kalim, that the lesser degree of holiness would be eaten in the entire city of Jerusalem. So the holier ones, you have to eat it inside.
The tent of meeting?
No, tent of meeting is no. Well, it depends what it means. Tent of meeting. No, from when you walk into, including the outer altar.
Yeah.
Tent of meeting is the holies, right? Usually, specifically, right? So you have to eat it in that area there, right?
Yeah.
But this is lesser holiness. You can eat it anywhere in Jerusalem, outside of the temple grounds, right? But still in Jerusalem, in the walled. We're talking about the walled city, right?
So it's interesting that the communal offering is like eaten in the sight of the community, basically. Like
Yeah.
within the community.
Right? Within the community, exactly. Okay. That was unique to this, right? Because remember, this is a peace offering that is specific for the day of inauguration. Okay, ato v'necha v'nesecha, you, your sons and your daughters. Ato v'necha v'chelik, you and your sons get what's a portion to you. But your daughters are not included in apportioning. It's not like, you're apportioning it three ways, right? Ella, so then what does it mean? Ella im titnu lahem matanos. But if you give food of gifts to the kohen, v'shoyim hein le'echol, the daughters are permitted to eat it. The chazav v'shoik, of the breast of the waving and the thigh of the raising. Or perhaps this is not what it means, but what it means, or maybe it means that the daughters do get a portion. So he's going back and forth. Why? Because here it's making them sound like they're equal, right?
Yeah.
Because it says your sons and your daughters. So it sounds like there's an equalizer. So first he's making the argument, no, it doesn't mean that. It means that if you've been gifted, you can, the daughters of your family can eat from it, right?
Yeah.
But not that it's being gifted to them,
No.
right? So, or maybe it means that it is that they get a portion, equal portion. Talmud Leimer. So this is to tell us no, that they don't get an equal portion. Because the verse says, right? The verse continues, and what does it say? It is your portion and your son's portions. A portion for the sons, is not a portion for the daughters, right? Because look what the verse said. It says, you, your sons and your daughters with you, because this is your portion. But it doesn't say portion of your daughters. Right. So it means that they get, but through being part of the family, as opposed to they get their own portion. Okay. 15. Sheikh Hatruma. The sheikh, the thigh of the truma. Okay. Hey, it's interesting. It's turning it around. Before in the previous verse in 14, first it spoke about the breast and the thigh, and now it's speaking about the thigh of the truma, vechaze hatnufa, and the breast of the waving, al ishe hachalavim, of the fats of the fire offering, yaviu, they should be brought lahanif tenufa to make a waving. Lifnei Hashem, before Hashem, v'haya lecha, and it should be for you, v'lavanecha itcha, and your sons with you, l'chakalam, for eternal law, kasher tziva Hashem, as Hashem commanded. Let's see Rashi. In 15, yeah. Okay. Tenufa, the thigh of raising and the breast of waving. Asher hunaf vasher huram. It is an expression that has been waved, and the thigh that has been raised. Others, it's in past tense. Tenufa, meaning melech mevi, meaning that you are moving it back and forth, and truma, raising, maila meiri. So back and forth means like this, and then raising up and down like this. Well, move in all directions, right? Lama chelkem makosus. So why does the verse separate them? Truma b'shaik, raising with the thigh, or tenufa b'chaza, and waving with the breast. Lo yadanu, we do not know, sheshneihem, that both the thigh and the breast, baharaba anafa, are included in raising and waving.
Yeah, it is weird they separated if they're both.
Right, because they're both, you have to do it for both, but it's separated. Why? Rashi doesn't know. Okay. Bal ishe achalavim, and the fire offering fats, mikan, from here we see shachalavim lamata, that the fats are on the bottom, the shas tenufa, when you're waving it, the yushav mikrais, and for the resolution of the verses seem to contradict because in some place it says that the fats are on top of the meat or the fats are on the bottom of the meat. There seems to be a contradiction in the verses. That they shouldn't contradict one to another. Kvar Parashi Shlo Ishtam. I already explained the three different relevant verses, Bitzav, Bitzarein, in last week's parsha. So by the waving, the fats were on the bottom, if I recall, and the meat on top. And then then you gave it to the kohen, it sort of gave it and you switched it, and the fat became on top. Right? That's the way he explained it earlier. Okay. Oh, that's it.
So when it says everlastingly as a portion, that means that this is not just for the inauguration.
Yeah, seemingly. Yeah, seemingly. Let's see. Let's see some thoughts from the Rebbe. So there's nothing from today, but let's go back to yesterday. Remember when Hashem, after Nadav and Avihu died in the holies, right? So then Hashem spoke to Aaron and gave him the law of that you shouldn't come intoxicated into the divine service, right? That's what we learned, right? So Rashi yesterday, if you want to see verse chapter 10, verse 9. You can look from yesterday if you want to look. So it says, the verse says, Yayin v'sheichar al teisht. Yayin, wine, and intoxicating liquid, don't drink. Right? What does Rashi say? Rashi says, Yayin v'sheichar, he brings down the words Yayin v'sheichar, wine and a alcohol, right? And Rashi says, Yain derech shechrusei, that wine in a manner of intoxication. That's what he says, right? So the Rebbe asks, why does Rashi have to explain anything? I mean, and why is he taking it away from the simple meaning what the words are saying? The words are saying two things: wine and any intoxicating alcohol. Right?
Yeah.
That's what the verse seems to say. But Rashi's not saying. Rashi says, no, it's wine in a manner of intoxication. Why does he have to leave it the way it is in the verse? Why do you have to give any explanation? It's self-understood. Clear?
No, it's not clear. What's different? Because when you drink wine, you're going to be intoxicated at some point.
Wait, 1 second. What does the verse say? The verse says, wine and alcohol don't drink. Okay, so finished. Leave it as such. Why does Rashi come and say, taking it out of its seemingly simple meaning, wine that is going to bring you to intoxication? Others, if you drink a little bit of wine, no. But just take it simply the way the verse says. Where's Rashi taking it out of its simple contextual meaning? or at least simple translation of the words. Okay? That clear?
Sorry, I'm confused about one thing you're saying. You're saying it says wine and intoxicating beverages. Right?
I'm saying the verse says. The verse says wine and intoxicating don't beverage, alcohol don't drink.
But couldn't that mean that even if you have one sip of wine, that's wine? Like, even if you're not intoxicated, and then when in that case, it'd be.
Okay, but that's not the point. That's not the point. Don't try to outsmart things. Just understand what's being said.
Yeah.
What's being said. What's the verse saying?
Wine and intoxicating.
Okay, so finish. That's what it said. What are you coming to explain something when it simply states what it states? Rashi only comes to explain something that's a difficulty. Well, what's difficult in the verse there? Don't go because you have a conclusion of something, so you're going to base it on that. Don't base on your conclusion. Base on what the verse is saying. So what do you need to come and explain? Self-understood.
Yeah.
Right? That clear?
Yeah.
Fabrice?
Yeah, good.
Because you already have a perception of something, so you're thinking what your perception is. Don't have any perception. Read the verse, understand it on its terms, not on something that you have a preconceived notion.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
That's what it means to understand something simply, right? So seemingly, it's that's what the words are saying. But Rashi's saying no. The word sheikhar doesn't mean alcohol. It means don't drink wine in an intoxicating way. Remember, it says it doesn't. If it would say yain shaker, that would be one thing, because that means wine that's intoxicating. But it doesn't say that. It says wine and intoxicating and alcohol. So it's two things seemingly here. And Rashi's making it into one. It says and. So it sounds like two different things here, right? That's the question, at least. The Rebbe's question. Okay? Is that clear now?
Yes.
So Rashi's explanation is coming in a continuation from previously in verse number 2. This is verse number 9. That this is coming in a continuum of the death of Nadav and Avihu. And as Rashi explains, a second explanation, right? That they were shtuyi yain, that they were intoxicated from wine. And they went into the Mikdash. And what was it? He didn't say wine and alcohol. Rashi said only wine that they were intoxicated from, right? Because, but maybe say based on this, right? Maybe say the opposite. Like what's Rashi's proof that it was only wine? Maybe say why it was wine and alcohol, because here it does say wine and alcohol, right? So maybe based on this, because it's coming in continuum of it, and that's that reason for why they died. So maybe say that they drank both things together. So Rashi, the Rebbe says he can't say that, right? Why? Because that's not normal way for a person to drink. You don't mix drinks. You don't mix drinks?
Normally.
Good point.
Okay. No, remember, we got to learn the simple understanding of the text, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to be on a what's normative thing to do,
Yeah.
right? We're not talking about crazy people here.
Yeah.
We're talking about tzaddikim, right? So if they're drinking something, they're drinking that. They're not playing it. It's not a game, right?
Yeah.
It's not a game that they're engaged in, right? So therefore, what makes sense, right, to say that they drank one thing and they got intoxicated from one thing, and they weren't just mixing drinks and having a party. God forbid, right? Therefore, Rashi says that they were just drunk from the wine, right? Which, by the way, there's wine already in the Mishkan, right? There's wine there. Alcohol there isn't, but wine there is, right? That's part of the service. So since now this is coming in continuum, right? Of the reason why, at least one reason, right? Of why they died. So when it says wine and alcohol, right? It's in reference of what was before. So it means it can't mean wine and alcohol literally, right? It has to be wine that brings you to a alcoholic or to a shikar, to becoming intoxicated. But I'm still bothered. Then okay, I get that. I understand the logic, but then why wouldn't the verse just say intoxicating wine? Simple. Why it has to say and? Maybe that's a reason why. I'm just thinking, I don't know why it's only the second explanation and not the first explanation, because it's not perfect in the words. That's why Rashi doesn't give it as a first explanation. Maybe that's part of the reason. Follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right. In other words, there is something missing here. Right. The fact that Rebbe always says, the fact that Rashi brings two explanations means what?
One has to be more.
One is lacking something that you need the second one. And the second one is lacking even more. That's why it's second, but it's making up something that the first one's lacking. That's why he has to bring two explanations according to the simple meaning of the text, right? According to the simple meaning of the text, he has to do that. Got it?
Got it.
That's a general principle. How that plays out over here, I'm not certain. If that's the case here. All right. Okay, we're gonna do Tanya in a few moments. Stay tuned.
Thank you,
folks. I don't know how you can live without this every day.
really.
I have even